to order. We're going to start by our land acknowledgement, and the City of Agoura Hills acknowledges that we occupy land originally and still inhabited and cared for by the Chumash Nation. Descendants of the Chumash still remain, and we honor and pay respects to their elders in various groups that make up the past, present, and emerging as they continue their stewardship of our lands and water. We have a responsibility and a commitment to elevate the stories, culture, and community of the original inhabitants of the City of Agoura Hills, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on these ancestral lands. For the Pledge of Allegiance, I am going to defer to Robbie Nesevic to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. Thank you. I'll now defer to the city clerk for a roll call.
Good evening. Councilmember Anderson? Here. Councilmember Anstead?
Here.
Councilmember, excuse me, Sylvester? Mayor Pro Tem Klein Lopez?
Here.
Mayor Wolf?
Here.
Mayor Wolf, you have a quorum.
Thank you. For the report of closed session, there was no closed session held, so there's nothing to report. We're now moving on to the approval of the agenda. Will the maker of the motion and the second to approve the agenda state your names?
Councilmember Sylvester moves to approve the agenda.
Councilmember Chris Anstead, second.
I will now call roll call. Thank you. Getting used to it.
Councilmember Anderson?
Aye.
Councilmember Anstead?
Aye.
Councilmember Sylvester?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein Lopez?
Aye.
Mayor Wolf?
Aye.
Mayor Wolf, you have approval, 5-0.
Thank you. So there are no presentations this evening, but I will move on to the Intergovernmental Special Purpose Committee and departmental reports. For our Agoura Hills Library Quarterly Report, I will defer to our wonderful library manager, Nina Hull.
No? Okay. Am I on? Okay, good evening, Mayor Wolf, City Manager Hamburger, City Council members and city staff. This is my first quarterly for 2026 report. But rather than going through the thing I usually do, telling you about all the programs we do and the heritage things that we have going on, tonight I want to give you a little background on what happened in October for public libraries all across the United States. The biggest vendor for our books is a company called Baker & Taylor. Baker & Taylor has been around for 100 years. They went belly up in October. So there was a last-ditch effort to help it, but then it failed. So the result was that all public libraries had to find a way. They have gone to another vendor that's working out quite well, although the books are just starting to come in. It's quite complicated. But what I do want to tell you is your friends of the library, the Agoura Hills Friends of the Library, give us a substantial amount of money every month to buy books for teens, adults, and children. In this situation, they had to work with the county to also use that same vendor, not go to something that they didn't want to use, and they are successfully doing that. So we hope soon to have the Friends support with having us even more books. The other thing I want to give you is just an outline of what these my county public libraries do. There's 85. And you know, us and Westlake are wealthy communities. We don't have all the issues that so many of those public libraries have with many homeless, uneducated children, disruptions, filth, all kinds of things. So, and when a disaster happens, like the Eaton and Palisades fires, it is the public library that also steps in. So, and as you know, when the, geez, I just went blank, the Malibu, which one? No, the one 2 years ago. Woolsey. When Woolsey happened, the Malibu Library opened up within 2 days. And it was a hub for FEMA to have forms being done and everything else. With the Eaton fire, in partnership with FEMA, our library locations at La Cañada, La Crescenta, Live Oak, San Fernando, West Hollywood, Temple City, and San Gabriel became essential hubs for recovery, offering direct support to residents most affected by the fires. More than 1,250 community members received on-site assistance, navigating through federal and state forms and services, helping families get back to some semblance of normality. In addition, for Altadena, the my public library system launched the Connected Wellness fundraising campaign to purchase additional portable hotspots, diapers, female products, new books, and school supplies, strengthening our capacity to support those families in Altadena. The other thing I want to tell you is that there's programs that take place in other libraries other than ours. One is Reading Stars, which goes on all year, and those are with credentialed tutors that come in and work with children, with the school district, all in cahoots on the whole thing. There are 31 libraries of the 85 that receive that service all year. For Summer Stars, the same kind of thing, credentialed teachers that come in. There are 46 libraries have been enjoying that part. We also, in this last few months, secured a relationship with the Department of Mental Health, and so we now have in 14 libraries social workers and clinical health workers. So, and those are some of the libraries that really have some very rough situations, and I think the county's really happy to have that going on. The last thing is what you'd expect to have come out of a librarian. Our job is to uphold in the freedom to read, and so reading materials are a cornerstone of intellectual freedom and empowers young people to explore diverse perspectives, ideas, and lived experiences. In 2025, Library continued to affirm its commitment by youth-oriented initiatives, including Library Teens Unite Symposium, which brought teens together to engage in a meaningful conversation about censorship, access, and the importance of protecting intellectual freedom. In addition to that, our banned book program that's been going on for a few years now, and the Banned Book and Freedom to Read programming has added a wide variety of events, displays, and interactive activities across library locations to encourage discourse and discovery. So that's my program, my answer. Any questions?
Thank you so much for that report. Are there any questions or comments from the council?
I would just like to make one comment, and that's to compliment the bookseller.
Yes.
I visited them just before Christmas, and I got a whole box full of books for my new granddaughter. So I've started her off with a whole bookcase, and I mean, they're just amazing down there. And I don't think our residents visit enough. You should.
Well, they continue to promote, but that's why I started this out talking about the bookseller and purchasing books for us. They bend over backwards, and Rick Hopp said, if you need more, just tell us. So we need them.
They do a wonderful program down there. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Have a good evening.
And I just want to express my gratitude. What you do for our community and what your library does for this community is phenomenal. You are a foundational part of who we are, so thank you.
All right. For your library, thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on, our next item would be the Clean Power Alliance update from Mayor Pro Tem Klein Lopez, but it's my understanding there was no CPA meeting, so there is no report tonight. So moving right along, are there any reports from staff? Seeing or hearing none, are there any reports from the City Council?
Yeah, I'd just like to give an update on Zone 0 regulations. The City of Los Angeles yesterday unanimously approved adopting the least restrictive recommendations that the Board of Forestry has put forward so far. So that means that there is healthy vegetation allowed in Zone 0. Whether this will be overridden by the Board of Forestry in the state later, we don't know, but it is a good signal for us because those are the options that we've already said we support. Option 4 for vegetation and option 2 for trees. So I'm still monitoring.
Thank you, Councilmember Sylvester. Any other comments? Okay, thank you. Moving along to public comments. This section is reserved for individuals wishing to speak on items not listed on the agenda that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. If you have materials to distribute to the Council, please do not approach the dais. Instead, provide them to the City Clerk for distribution on your behalf. Public testimony is limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and a speaker's time may not be transferred to another speaker. Individuals addressing the Council shall refrain from disorderly conduct that disrupts or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the meeting. I will now defer to the city clerk for public comments.
Thank you. We do have a speaker this evening, Avi Shah. And just as a note, the green light is not working this evening, however, the yellow and the red are, so.
Thank you. Hello, Avi.
Hello, my name is Avi Shaw. I'm a senior at Viewpoint High School in Calabasas and a member of the Mayor's Youth Council, also of Calabasas. And I'm here to talk to you about medication disposal, which I'm not going to, for the sake of time, share my own story, but I will share some statistics. So across the country, the average cup of drinking water has 21 pharmaceutical contaminants. Approximately 80% of streams across the country have pharmaceutical contaminants. And within homes, 500,000 kids under the age of 5 yearly are sent to the ER because of medication ingestion without supervision. And medication disposal is key to all of these problems. Reducing the amount of medicines lying around the house and getting rid of them the correct way is exactly how we can stop this problem. So for Calabasas, I've worked with them to establish drop boxes and spread awareness, and I was hoping that we can get Agoura in on this as well. I've worked with medical centers in LA, such as UCLA Health and Facey Medical Center, to get drop boxes there in their pharmacies, and I'd love to continue that work with you guys. I think a big issue is awareness. I think when it comes to things like batteries, people know not to just throw them away. But when it comes to medicines, people just flush them without really thinking about the consequences of that. So I'd love to work with you guys on a way to spread awareness, maybe a page on the city website, or I don't know if you guys do a weekly email, but something like that. And yeah, if you guys have an environmental commission, working with them, I've done that for Calabasas, so I'd just love to hear your thoughts on that.
Thank you, Avi. We, at this point, we're not allowed to go back and forth.
Yeah, for sure.
Appreciate you coming out tonight, and hopefully one of our staff members can talk to you and find a way to coordinate. But thank you for coming out tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Mayor Wolf, can I just comment that our local CVS has a drop box. I drop my prescriptions off there all the time, right by the pharmacy. So any used medication, expired medication, it's available to be deposited right there.
Fantastic. Thank you. Are there any other public comments tonight?
We do not have any further speaker cards.
Great. Thank you. Moving on to the consent calendar. This section is reserved for persons wishing to speak on items on the consent calendar. I will now defer to the city clerk.
Thank you. We did not receive any written correspondence, nor do we have any speaker cards.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the city council on the consent calendar? Seeing or hearing none, I will now call for a motion and a second to adopt the consent calendar. Will the makers of the motion and the second state your name?
This is Deborah Klein Lopez. I'll motion to approve the consent calendar.
Councilmember Anderson seconds.
I will now defer to the city clerk for roll call.
Councilmember Anderson,
Aye.
Councilmember Anstead,
Aye.
Councilmember Sylvester,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein Lopez.
Aye.
Mayor Wolf.
Aye.
Mayor Wolf, you have approval, 5-0.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so getting things started. Moving on to item number 8. Our next item is a discussion to waive full reading and introduce ordinance number 26-483, amending and declaring prima facie speed limits for 9 specific road segments of Agoura Road, Canwood Street, Driver Avenue, Palo Camado Canyon Road, Canaan Road, Reyes Adobe Road, and Cornell Road, and adopting the 2025 Engineering and Traffic Survey. I will now defer to the Director of Public Works and City Engineer, Charmaine Yambao, for the staff presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Wolf and council members. Tonight, we will be presenting the 2025 Engineering and Traffic Survey. The agenda for this item includes providing some background information regarding the Engineering and Traffic Survey, commonly referred to as ENTS, legislative updates that have gone into effect since our last full survey. We will then present the results of the recommendations from the 2025 ENTS, providing also a summary of feedback from the Public Works Subcommittee, and should this item be approved, an outline of the next steps, and staff will make a recommendation for the City Council to consider And last, we will open it up for questions and any feedback the City Council may have. Okay, now for a little bit of background. Posted speed limits are established to protect the general public and provide law enforcement with a clear method to identify and apprehend violators of the basic speed law. The California Vehicle Code, Section 40802B, requires that the prima facie posted speed limits be justified by an ENTS. The ENTS is typically conducted every 5 years, but can be extended up to 14 years if it is determined no significant changes to the roadway and/or traffic conditions have occurred. The last study that we adopted was by the City Council on August 24, 2016, by resolution number 1618-1823. Due to the ongoing construction of the Agoura Road widening project, 9 street segments along Agoura Road, Canaan Road, and Reyes Adobe Road were excluded and scheduled to be surveyed after construction was completed. So then on November 8, 2017, the City Council approved ordinance number 17-433, which amended the prima facie speed limits for those street segments that were excluded in the 2016 survey. This slide provides all the considerations in an ENTS prior to adjusting speed limits from the 85th percentile. I won't read them all, but I do want to touch on the term of the 85th percentile. It's used quite frequently with the traffic-related surveys and studies. The 85th percentile is the speed at or below which 85% of drivers travel on a road, representing what most motorists perceive as safe and reasonable under good conditions. Traffic engineers typically use the 85th percentile of collected speed data and round to the nearest 5 miles per hour to set appropriate speed limits. There have been a couple of legislative updates since the adoption of our last full ENTS. Assembly Bill 43, AB 43, was adopted in 2021, and AB 1938 was adopted in 2022. These bills provided cities with more flexibility in setting reduced speed limits by allowing the safety consideration of vulnerable road users, such as bicyclists and pedestrians. And with these safety considerations in mind, city can reduce speeds by retaining existing speed limits, restoring immediately prior speed limits, rounding down to the nearest 5 mile per hour increment, also reducing speed limits on roads that are adjacent to bicyclists and pedestrian generators, and by designating roadways as safety corridors. These legislative updates were put into use more recently in 2022 for Reyes Adobe Road. Most of you may recall the city performed an ENTS for the road segment of Reyes Adobe Road between Agoura Road and Thousand Oaks Boulevard. It was used to determine if the speed limit could be restored to the prior speed limit that was established in the 2011 ENTS. Since no additional lanes had been added to Reyes Adobe and the previous speed limit was still more than reasonable and safe, the City Council approved an ordinance in August of 2022 which reduced the speed limit from 45 miles per hour back to the 40 miles per hour which exists today. There were 28 segments in the 2025 ENTS, which included all arterial and collector streets in the city. Local streets are exempt from the survey requirements by the CBC and have a set prima facie speed limit of 25 miles per hour. The ENTS for the city was conducted in accordance with procedures outlined in the California Manual on Unified Traffic Control Devices, commonly referred to as California MUTCD, and as required by Section 627 of the CBC. The 3 main elements of a survey include the measurement of prevailing speed, accident history, and roadway characteristics not readily apparent to the motorist. In order to collect accurate data, the city's traffic consultant, Kimley Horn and Associates, collected the speed data before the end of the fiscal year 24-25 school year. And now I'd like to present the recommended updates from the 2025 ENTS. While it was anticipated that the speed limits would remain the same, based on Kimley Horn's review of the data, changes to the existing speed limits are being recommended along 9 road segments, which are highlighted on this map here, shown on this slide. The following slides will detail the updates to each of these 9 road segments. The first up is Agoura Road, which accounts for 4 of the 9 road segments. The 4 segments of Agoura Road recommended for speed limit change are segment between Reyes Adobe Road to Ladyface Court, Ladyface Court to Canaan Road, the segment between Cornell Road to Chesbrough Road, Laura LaPlante, and the segment between Chesbrough Road, Laura LaPlante to Liberty Canyon. All 4 segments are currently posted at 45 miles per hour speed limit. It is proposed to reduce the speed limit to 40 miles per hour based on the horizontal and vertical road curvatures that exist and usage by bicyclists and pedestrians. To note, recently the City of Calabasas and the County of Los Angeles have reduced the speed limits on their portion of Agoura Road adjacent to our easterly city limits. If approved, the speed limit along Agoura Road between Lost Hills Road and Reyes Adobe Road would be 40 miles per hour, with the exception of a small stretch on Agoura Road in the Agoura Village area, which is between Canaan and Cornell Road, and is currently posted at 35 miles per hour. Additionally, staff also feels this is appropriate for the segment between Liberty Canyon and Chesbrough Road, with the upcoming completion of the Wallace-Annenberg Wildlife Crossing. This slide just shows a typical table of data that's collected when determining speed limits. The 2016 ENTS approved the road segment of Canwood Street between Dairy Avenue and Chesbrough Road as 40 miles per hour. The updated 2025 ENTS recommends, based on the 85th percentile, the speed limit be reduced to 35 miles per hour on this segment of Canwood. Just so happens that the current speed limit signs that are already posted reflect a 35 miles per hour speed limit, which is recommended by the current 2025 ENTS. This proposed change only updates to the current ENTS and reflects the current speed limit that's out there today. So there will be no changes to the signage if needed. Driver Avenue from Argo Street to the 101 freeway is recommended for a speed limit reduction to 30 miles per hour for the whole stretch. Currently, Driver Avenue is posted 30 miles per hour between Kolodny Drive and Argos, and is approved as 35 miles per hour on the segment east of Kolodny. The proposed change would reduce the speed limit between the Ventura Freeway to Kolodny Drive from 35 miles per hour to 30 miles per hour, based on the curvature of the roadway, bike lanes, horse activity, a park, and a school that generates pedestrian traffic. A small section of southbound Canaan Road near Canwood Street northbound is currently posted as 40 miles per hour. The other segments, both northbound and southbound in this area, are posted as 35 miles per hour. The speed limit is proposed and recommended to be 35 miles per hour based on the 85th percentile speed. The proposed change would be consistent with the other speed limits posted for other southbound and northbound segments in this area. The segment of Reyes Adobe Road between the intersection of Lakeland Arrow Drive, headed north to where the road narrows, leading into Yerba Buena Elementary, is recommended for a speed limit change. This segment of Reyes Adobe Road has a current speed limit of 40 miles per hour. It is proposed to reduce the speed limit from 40 miles per hour to 35 miles per hour due to both vertical and horizontal road curvature, proximity to the school generating pedestrian and bicycle traffic, and a high collision rate. Cornell Road between Agoura Road and Cornell Way currently does not have a posted speed limit. The 2025 ENTS proposes to establish a 35 mile per hour speed limit for this stretch of roadway. The reduction from the 85th percentile is due to curvature, low visibility, narrow road width, narrow shoulder, and high collision rate compared to the state average. And as we all know, Cornell Road is also heavily used by cyclists. In summary, the 2025 ENTS recommends 20 street segments are recommended to maintain existing speed limits. 4 segments, which are along Agoura Road, are recommended to be reduced by 5 miles per hour for the entire roadway segment. 2 segments along Canaan Road and Driver Avenue are recommended to reduce the speed limit by 5 miles per hour on only a portion of the roadway to standardize the entire roadway speed limit. 1 roadway segment on Reyes Adobe Road is recommended to reduce the speed limit by rounding down the 85th percentile speed and downgrading it by another 5 miles per hour. And 1 new speed limit is established along Cornell Road, and it's 5 miles per hour lower than the 85th percentile. On September 17, 2025, staff presented this item to the Public Works Subcommittee, which at the time consisted of the Mayor Pro Tem Jeremy Wolf and Councilmember Kate Anderson. The feedback we received were that they were both supportive of bringing this item to the City Council for consideration. Both agreed that the presented ENTS justified the proposed recommended speed limits. And during the subcommittee meeting, a discussion about the frequency of speed limit updates was asked, and staff informed the subcommittee that historically ENTS had to be performed every 5 or 7 years, although justification for certain streets could be extended to 10 years if road and traffic conditions had not changed. Following the passing of AB 43, surveys are still taken, but every 5 or 7 years, and can be extended to 14 years based on those same reasons. I would like to note that the speed limits are enforceable for 7 years rather than the 5 if the peace officer has successfully completed a radar operator course. So the next steps for this item, staff anticipates bringing the second reading of ordinance number 26-483 to the next City Council meeting on January 28, 2026. And if approved, staff will notify the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department of the new speed limits. In addition, we will begin public outreach efforts, including adding the new ENTS to the city's website for the public to review. The city would begin replacing the various speed limit signs 30 days after the final approval of the ENTS. And as required by AB 43, drivers that are traveling 10 miles per hour or less over the speed limit are only subject to a warning citation until 30 days after the lower speed limit is in effect. And then the new speed limits would be fully enforceable by March 29, 2026. Staff respectively recommends the City Council introduce, read by title only, and waive further reading of ordinance number 26-483, adopting the 2025 Engineering and Traffic Survey. This concludes our presentation. We welcome any questions and feedback from the City Council. And tonight we have Matt Stewart, our City Traffic Engineer, and from one of our staff, Kelly Fisher, Deputy Public Works Director, here to help answer any questions that you may have.
Great. Thank you for a very wonderful and thorough presentation. Now, before we move on to public comments, does any council members have any questions of staff? So, seeing Mayor Pro Tem first.
Thank you. I just want to confirm I understand the dates of when all of these reviews happened. So all of the segments in the city, except for the ones that were under construction that you mentioned, were reviewed in 2016. And then all of the ones that were excluded in 2016 were reviewed in 2017. And then Reyes Adobe was separately re-reviewed after some of those laws kicked in that moved it back and forth. Am I understanding it right?
That is correct. So 2016 was the whole city minus those streets
Okay.
that were affected. and in 2022 was Reyes Adobe.
Okay, so really, we haven't done this because we haven't needed to for about 8 years, right?
That is correct.
Okay, got it. And then my other question is, if you do need to do it, so my question is, for example, the wildlife crossing. That's obviously going to be changing Agoura Road, and it will be changing traffic patterns. And maybe people merge, maybe they slow down. I don't remember exactly how people are going to get through the construction there. Do we just do that segment separately? And when do we do that? Like, how would it work in that situation?
I think Matt Stewart can weigh in, but I believe we would do it in 5 to 7 years from that date of today if this was approved. But I'll have Matt weigh in for more.
Thanks, Charmaine. Yes, so if there is a change in the roadway conditions, cities are always permitted to make an update to the speed limit as soon as the roadway conditions have changed. So there would be an opportunity to make an updated engineering survey just for the one segment where there has been a change in conditions.
Okay, so if it's 40, if we change it and it's 40 and we say, wow, that just seems too fast, people are barreling through there too fast, we can bring it to us for just that segment.
That would be correct from what I'm hearing from Matt.
Okay, great. Those are my questions for now.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I saw Councilmember Sylvester.
Yes, I have just one quick question about the segment of Thousand Oaks Boulevard between Reyes Adobe and the West City limits. That's the only section that's 45, and the rest is 40, except for that little bit just before the shopping centres. It drops down to 35. Why is that 45 and not 40 like the rest of T.O. Boulevard?
Matt, will you want to take that?
Yeah, I'm checking the data, but in general, each block or each segment is evaluated on a case-by-case basis, and that particular segment has some features that tend to encourage slightly higher speeds, and the data ultimately comes down to the data, which shows that the 85th percentile speed on that western segment warranted the speed recommended.
So we couldn't reduce it to 40 to just maintain continuity all along T.O. Boulevard. I mean, to me, because we have kids on e-bikes, it makes sense if, you know, the whole of Thousand Oaks is just one speed limit. It's a lot easier for people to remember that. And then, oh, this bit I can speed up and this bit I can... I mean, why are we letting them speed up? Oops.
We would have to double check the data whether it would be feasible to reduce to that level. It's possible that the 85th percentile speed is at such a point where the city would not even have the option to make that change.
So it's out of our control.
Correct. It's possible. So looking at the data now, I think the 85th percentile speed on that western segment is 47.2, whereas the segment to the east, it's 43.8. So that indicates that the roadway conditions encourage people to drive faster on that western portion, and so it wouldn't be recommended to reduce the speed limit so much compared to the speed people are going.
Okay. All right. I would prefer to see it all at 40, but all right. Thank you.
Matt, I think it also would be wise to say it also becomes unenforceable because they're just going at a faster rate. That's the natural rate that they're doing. It's pretty straight, too. It's open, and it's quite open and straight.
Any other questions? I have a question building off Councilmember Sylvester's question. Tonight would be the night, though, to change that one segment she referenced because there won't be other changes, or in conditions, or does AB 43 give us the opportunity to revisit that sooner?
Well, we could take that out and leave it, or leave it as recommended and go back and review it at a later date. But I think based that we just did the survey last year, it would come up with the same data. But we could do that if we need to.
That answers that one question. And the next question, it was very well answered in the staff report, but I was hoping we could just go over what the enforcement schedule looks like from law enforcement once these changes have been implemented.
So the first 30 days after we approve it at the second meeting, which is January 26th, and after we post it, so we have to post it 30 days after that, if people go over the speed limit by 10 miles per hour, it's a warning. But once it becomes fully enforceable, it's the 30 days after that, which is March 29th. So you have 30 days and another 30 days before it becomes fully enforceable and people can receive tickets.
Thank you for answering that. Seeing no more questions from the council, I will now defer to the city clerk.
Thank you. We did not receive any written correspondence, nor do we have any speaker cards.
Thank you. Do any council members have any further questions? Not seeing any. We're now going to move on to deliberations. And for deliberations, I'm going to start with my fellow Public Works Committee member, Councilmember Anderson, to kick us off with deliberations.
Thank you, Mayor Wolf, and thank you, Charmaine, and the entire Public Works staff. This was an exhaustive review. And as I understand it, is state mandated, but you guys went above and beyond, and you certainly went above and beyond in our Public Works Committee, because Jeremy and I had lots and lots of questions about how this all worked and which roads and we were getting up and drawing. And I am delighted to support this. By the end of that meeting, I was super, super clear. And honestly, I'm delighted to do this because we're moving the speeds in the right direction. I was out walking my dogs today, and there were these two little toddlers, like on these little scooters, and they were not on an street, but it reminded me how much our community is full of families. And so what you are able to be recommending to us today is to lower the speed limits. I mean, and safely, you obviously can't get too slow, and that causes its own problems. But for each and every segment that you are recommending lowering, I was delighted to be able to say, yes, let's do that.
Thank you, Councilmember Anderson. I'll now move to my right, Councilmember Anstead.
First of all, it was a great presentation. Great, and what I liked about it also is covered everything and it was very succinct. So it was perfect. On the findings on this, I actually, a lot of these segments I drive every day, and there's more bikes on the roads lately. There's also more pedestrians, and there's probably going to be more e-bikes going forward right next to this traffic. So I definitely can make the findings. I think it's the recommendations for those segments are good. I think maybe in the future we might have to look at other segments going forward as well. So I can definitely make the findings and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Now moving on to Mayor Pro Tem Klein Lopez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too want to thank the committee and our staff for a great presentation, and also wanted to thank Matt for the report. I love the wonky. I like the wonk, so it was a fun read. I mean, call me a nerd, but I thought it was a fun read. So thank you. It was really interesting to see in data what we experience every day, in real life, especially if you've grown up here and you know those streets so well. So I really enjoyed going through the full document. I agree with my fellow council members that we're just a little bit slower paced here in Agoura Hills with, horses, the fact that we see horses on the road, little kids, and then now certainly e-bikes. They're not so slow paced, but I saw them on my way home today, and they were right in the middle of the road, these young kids on e-bikes in the left-hand turn lane. And I thought, wow, if someone runs that intersection, these guys are in trouble. So I think we are moving in the right direction. I'm happy to see, us taking a more conservative approach on speeding, which, by the way, is one of the top complaints I get in my inbox is from residents saying, do you know how fast someone's going on this street? So I agree we're moving in the right direction. I do want to emphasize, especially because of the warning periods, that we do the appropriate amount of communications, which I know we will, but definitely sooner rather than later, to give people that knowledge that it's really going to affect the whole city. So we have to be really aggressive on our communications plan. So I'm sure we're on that, and we'll do well. And then I just want to end. He's going to be so mad at me, but there's someone who does so much for this, who hates the attention, We say here in the building that all roads lead to Kelly. If ever there's a problem in the city, the phrase is all roads lead to Kelly. So thank you, Kelly, as well. And with that, I can make the findings. Thank you.
Well said. Councilmember Sylvester?
Well, I can't top that comment. But I'd just like to thank staff for all their hard work and our subcommittee too. And I'm in complete agreement with reducing the speeds for all the reasons everybody stated tonight. And also along Agoura Road, the other day I was driving down Agoura Road and there was a cyclist in front of me in my lane. He wasn't in the bike lane at all. He didn't even want to use it. So I think it's really important we try and keep ourselves as safe as possible. I would have one request though, make sure all those speed limit signs are visible, because I know some of them now are sort of covered by tree limbs and things like that. So especially like towards Agoura High School and things. So just to have our landscaping people make sure all those signs are clearly visible. But I completely agree with everybody else. I can make all the findings to prove. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm going to be able to make all the findings, and I think this checks a lot of boxes. It's good for our schools, it's good for our wildlife, it's good for our residents. I do ask, echoing what has been said, that we communicate this, because it is a big change in people's daily lives, and I'm sure there will be some frustration, but I think it's absolutely worth it to improve the public safety of our residents in our city. And I want to end by thanking Kelly Fisher also. And so I am able to make all the findings and move forward on this. So with that, I will now call for a motion and a second to approve the staff recommendation. Will the makers of the motion and the second state your name?
Councilmember Anderson makes the motion.
Councilmember Sylvester seconds.
I will now defer to the city clerk for roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Councilmember Anstead.
Aye.
Councilmember Sylvester.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein Lopez.
Aye.
Mayor Wolf.
Aye.
Mayor Wolf, you have approval 5-0.
Thank you. We're now moving on to discussion and action item number 9. Before we begin this item, I will defer to Mayor Pro Tem Klein Lopez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item is regarding a Public Works item very, very close to my home, so I'm within the radius of needing to recuse myself from this item, so I will excuse myself and hopefully someone will let me back in when you're done deliberating.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next item is discussion to consider adoption of resolution number 26-2123, adopting the installation of stop controls at the intersection of Sandtrap Drive and Larboard Lane. I will now defer to the Director of Public Works and the City Engineer, Charmaine Yambao, for the staff presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Wolf. Here I am again, here to present another traffic item for your consideration. Before you tonight is a resolution to install a multi-way stop control at the intersection of Sandtrap Drive and Larboard Lane. Our agenda for tonight includes a brief background, a discussion of the warrant analyses completed by the city traffic engineer, staff recommendations, and to provide an overview of the proposed intersection improvements, a summary of the feedback from the Public Works Subcommittee, the recommendation to City Council for approval, and finally, an opportunity for the Council to ask questions and provide any feedback. A little bit of background. The City has received multiple concerns regarding traffic safety at the intersection of Sandtrap Drive and Larboard Lane due to the significant pedestrian and vehicular traffic during the Lindero Canyon Middle School drop-off and pickup times. The request for consideration was for the city to either install stop signs at both legs of Sandtrap Drive, making it a three-way stop control, or adding a crossing guard to enhance pedestrian safety for those using the existing crosswalks. On this slide, you'll see the subject area on the left-hand photo in that red box. The city received a similar request for this intersection in 1995. Based on the warrant analyses done at the time, the traffic volumes were well below the threshold to warrant multi-way stop controls at this intersection. However, the traffic volumes were considered high enough to justify the installation of a one-way stop for the northbound Larboard lane. On June 28, 1995, the City Council adopted Resolution number 95-932, which approved the installation of the stop sign currently in place on Larboard Lane. A little bit about warrant analyses. For the current traffic safety concerns, a warrant analysis for a multi-stop control and adult crossing guard was performed. As part of the analyses, turning movement counts for vehicles, bicycles, and pedestrians were collected on October 7, 2025, during school drop-off time of 7 to 9 a.m. and pickup time from 2 to 4 p.m. At the intersection at question, Sandtrap Drive and Larboard Lane, as well as the nearby intersections of Rainbow View Drive and Larboard Lane, and Lake Lindero Drive and Rainbow View Drive. In addition to the traffic volumes, the analyses considered speed limits and collision history over the past 5 years. The city's traffic engineer completed the warrant analyses in accordance with the guidance provided by the California Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, commonly referred to as California MUTCD. The California MUTCD provides 4 main criteria shown here on this slide, as well as additional optional warrants when assessing the need for a multi-stop control. The results of the warrant analyses showed that although the intersection did not meet the main criteria listed in the California MUTC for stop signs, it was determined that the intersection did meet one of the optional criteria. This criteria is California MUTCD 2B07. The need to control vehicle-pedestrian conflicts near locations that generate high pedestrian volumes. Particularly with this intersection, the opportunities for vehicle-pedestrian conflicts, especially with school-aged children, are high during school pickup and drop-off times. The warrant analyses also studied whether the intersection warranted an adult crossing guard. The pedestrian volumes did not meet the minimum requirements for a crossing guard. Based on the analyses, staff recommends making the intersection a 3-way stop, providing additional safeguards for pedestrians using the crosswalk across the intersection's east leg. And if the proposed changes are implemented, this intersection would be consistent with the intersections to the south of this area, Larboard Lane and Rainbow View Drive. At this time, staff is not recommending a crossing guard since the California MUTCD warrant was not met, and the pedestrian volumes are lower than the nearby intersections where crossing guards are currently stationed. This slide shows the proposed improvements. If approved, the city's public works contractor would install stop signs, a red curb on the north side of the intersection to restrict parking, and the necessary pavement markings to support the 3-way stop control at the intersection. And for the first few weeks after improvements, fluorescent flags would be attached to alert drivers of these new signs. The city would also provide public notifications of the changes to the city's regular social media outlets, as well as notification to the surrounding neighborhood and the school. Staff presented this item to the Public Works Subcommittee on October 27, 2025. The Public Works Subcommittee consisted of Mayor Wolf and Councilmember Anderson. Both were supportive of staff's recommendation to make the intersection a 3-way stop. In addition, they supported not adding a crossing guard at this time due to the cost and a shortage of crossing guards currently available. Staff added that they would work with the Lost Hills Sheriff's Station to help enforce the new all-way stop. A recommendation was made that staff perform outreach to residents on Sandtrap Drive and Larboard Lane and the school prior to bringing this item to the City Council tonight. Staff did hand-deliver letters to the residents on both Sandtrap and Larboard outlining the proposed changes and the information that we are presenting here tonight. In addition, 8 letters were mailed to property owners that do not reside at these residences to inform them of this change. of this proposed change. The Las Virgenes Unified School District Superintendent and Principal of Lindero Canyon Middle School were also notified about the proposed changes. Staff respectfully recommends the City Council adopt Resolution Number 26-2123, approving the installation of stop controls at the intersection of Sandtrap Drive and Larboard Lane. This concludes our presentation. We will now open it up for questions and comments. Again, we have Matt Stewart, our City Traffic Engineer, and our Deputy Public Works Director, Kelly Fisher, to help answer any of your questions.
Thank you for another very thorough report. Before we move on to public comment, does any council members have any questions of staff? Councilmember Anstead, starting with you.
Actually, I just have questions and confirmation. I actually did drive out to the road and the school. On the opposite side of on the opposite side of the middle school, on Larboard, there's currently 3 stop signs on that intersection. Am I correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council? Seeing or hearing none, I will now defer to the city clerk.
Thank you. We do have one speaker this evening, but prior to calling that name, written correspondence was received from 3 Agoura Hills residents. It was distributed to council: Deanna Cooper, Sybil Golan, and Katie Stevens. And our speaker this evening is Chuck Whelan. If you'd like to come up to the podium, thank you.
Welcome. Your 3 minutes to speak will end when the red light appears on the podium. Please adjust the microphone and begin your comments.
I think we're good. I just wanted to point out that I kind of disagree with some of the findings. I mean, just from living, I live right on that intersection. So you saw the picture up there. There was a black truck in the driveway. That's my truck. I've just noticed over the last 3-4 years.
Speak into the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've just noticed over the last 3 or 4 years that the traffic is really bad when school is let out. When school starts, it's a little more like they're just dropping kids off, so they're coming in and it's much quicker. But when the kids are coming out, all the parents are parked, double parked on Sandtrap. They ignore the stop signs. They ignore the red line, the red painted curbs. They don't pay any attention to that. I mean, some do, but it's in a pretty worrisome amount that don't. And the reason I came is because my big concern is that somebody's going to get hit. So what I did want to say is I like the 3 stop signs. I mean, it seems to be working on the other side on Rainbow View, I believe. But I do think that maybe a little more consideration might be considered about the crossing guard, because maybe the crossing guard could do what I do, which is I will go out when it gets really hairy out there and knock on the windows and say, could you maybe not park in the red section here? And it's a very surprising reaction that I get sometimes, which is they don't even acknowledge me, or the common comment I get is, I'm only here for 15 minutes to pick up my kid. I try to explain to them that that's why the red is painted here. It's for that 15 minutes. It's to protect the kids crossing the cross. You know, some of them listen, some of them don't. But for the most part, they're pretty nice. But, you know, I have 2 granddaughters. I raised 3 kids myself, so it just concerns me to see that. So just maybe reconsider the crossing guard or down the line. That's it. That's pretty much what I wanted to have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are any other public speakers?
No further speakers.
Thank you. Do any of the council members have any further questions?
Yes, I
Yes,
do.
please.
To follow up on what the gentleman just said, when this is installed, we'll have sheriffs out there, correct, monitoring it at the beginning?
That is correct.
So, and if I see we have our principal, Eric Anholt here. it's if we work with the school too to make sure that notices go out to parents about red curbs are red curbs and nobody stops or double parks and that they will be ticketed. So I think it's education and information to parents is really important. So if we could set that up, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other questions before we move on to deliberations? Not seeing any, so we will now move on to deliberations, and I will again start with my fellow Public Works member, Councilmember Anderson.
I will again thank you, Mayor Wolf, and again, Public Works Committee, Public Works staff, and Principal Anholt for coming to our Public Works Committee and walking us through how important this is to you and to all of your parents. This, similar to the speed limit, is a no-brainer. It almost defines a no-brainer. I'm so glad that you brought it to us. We have safety as the forefront, and to be able to then have, and I'm so glad that there is that criteria number 2, because it doesn't technically meet the stop sign requirements in other ways, but we have this, that criteria number 2 that says it's a high pedestrian area to be able to put in a stop sign. So I am happy to be able to support this.
Thank you, Councilmember Anderson. Councilmember Sylvester?
Yeah, this is long overdue, and I would like to thank Principal Anholt to bring it to our attention. I'm very happy about this. Anything that we can do to promote safety for our students is a number 1 priority, so I'm fully in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Anstead?
Also, I think with the fact that, again, going back to the fact that there is 3 stop signs on the other end, on the other side of the middle school, I'm very much in support of this. It is close to the school, and I think we do need to monitor going forward about whether we need a crossing guard going forward. And if we see that there is still issues, I think I would want to bring it back to the city council. But definitely happy to implement the signs, and I think it's warranted.
Thank you. And sitting on the Public Works Committee as well, I want to thank the
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Check, 1, 2, 3.
Sound check 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Sound check 1, 2, 3.
Okay, great. We are back on track. So we are going to move on to discussion action item number 10. Our next item is discussion to consider membership in the Wildfire Solutions Coalition. I will now defer to the Assistant City Manager, Ramiro Adeva, for the staff presentation.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mayor. Honorable Mayor, members of the council, tonight's item is actually being brought to you at the request of Councilmember Sylvester. It's a result of a presentation made to the COG, and at the request of the Wildfire Solutions Coalition, they are asking the city to consider membership into the coalition. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Mr. Steve Frisch from the coalition. He's their representative. He's going to come up and give this presentation, and then afterwards, I'll be available to try and answer any questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ramiro. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and members of the council for inviting me here tonight. So, my name is Steve Frisch. I'm the president of the Sierra Business Council based in Truckee, California, and also the co-convener of the Wildfire Solutions Coalition, which is a new statewide coalition focused on increasing resources for wildfire resilience at the local level across the state of California. The Wildfire Coalition was brought together first in June of last year We currently have about 77 members. Those members include business organizations from across the state, organizations like the Bay Area Council and the Los Angeles Economic Development Corporation, conservation and wildfire resilience-focused organizations like the California Council of Land Trusts, the California Fire Chiefs Association, the State Natural Resource Conservation Districts, and numerous land trusts and conservation organizations from across the state of California. Labor organizations, including firefighters and local emergency responders, and also environmental justice and public health organizations from across the state. So very broad-based coalition. It is intended to represent every region of California, every sector of California's economy, joining together with the message that we need to scale up resources for investing in local wildfire resilience. Let's talk about what those resources are. So currently the state of California is spending about $400 million a year on wildfire resilience efforts, and that's across the entire state, everything from prescribed fire to thinning, vegetation management, wildland-urban interface management. That does not include home hardening. California is only spending about $50 million a year on home hardening right now. But if you look across the state at the wildfire resilience strategies that have been developed at the local level, like yours here by the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, through the Regional Forest and Fire Capacity Grant Program, the need statewide is actually between $2.5 and $3 billion a year, every year for at least 10 years in order to get ahead of the wildfire crisis. So you can see what the problem is here. Next slide, please. So we need consistent funding to address this wildfire crisis, and the costs are off the charts. On a 10-year average, wildfire cost California $117 billion a year in economic damages. Last year, that number was over $300 billion because of the Los Angeles fires. In recent years, California has spent about $400 million per year on wildfire resilience. Our independent analysis shows that we have a $2.5 to $3 billion need. Next slide, please. At the same time, state spending on CAL FIRE has grown significantly in recent years. As a matter of fact, gone from about $2 billion a year to $4 billion a year between 2019 and 2026. And it was over $4 billion last year if you include the emergency response funding that was added to the CAL FIRE budget to address the Los Angeles wildfire crisis. California's climate assessment actually indicates that wildfire will be 60% more prevalent in the state of California by 2075. So what we are experiencing today is less than half of what we will likely experience in the next 50 years. And this has huge impacts on things like affordability, where wildfire is driving the home insurance crisis and rising utility rates. It's actually the #1 cause of the increases in both utilities and insurance over the last 10 years. It's having an impact on water and air quality, where wildfire contaminants are contaminating water supplies and causing toxic air pollution. To put a pin in that toxic air pollution issue, the recent UC Berkeley public health study of air quality in California shows that wildfire contributes today to 5,000 additional deaths per year in the state. Their analysis of the 5th climate assessment shows that by 2050, that number will increase by an additional 7,000 fatalities a year, totaling 12,000 deaths a year due to wildfire exposure, or exacerbated by wildfire exposure. Most of these are respiratory illnesses in children and seniors. And then, of course, there are all of these other things at stake, like, wildfires are one of the greatest sources of greenhouse gas emissions in California. As a matter of fact, they almost always exceed emissions from stationary sources like power generation or cars and trucks. And, we know from our impact in our local communities, like how close we came to losing so many really important assets last year. This is what defines California, our historic assets, our landscapes, our enjoyment of our natural landscapes. There's a lot at stake. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we're looking at within the Wildfire Solutions Coalition is how to deliver this message that we need to scale up funding in relationship to the avoided costs that we will have in the future by doing this work today, which is really quite substantial. $1 invested today prevents $22 in lost economic activity over the next 10 years. That's the odds on wildfire impact on lost on economic activity. So it's a really huge issue of, are you going to pay for it now or are you going to pay for it later? Next slide, please. We also know what works. We have a really good system in California for doing local mitigation planning. For example, your Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy Plan, right? We have plans like that all up and down the state, and those have been aggregated together into a California Wildfire Action Plan by the Wildfire and Forest Resilience Task Force. So we have really good science that we've worked on for 10 years about how to do this. Like, people know what to do. They just don't have the resources to do it, right? This coalition is focused on growing those resources, and we've been testing a number of different funding mechanisms. So we have been looking at things like local ballot measures, like Marin, North Lake Tahoe, Truckee, Sonoma County have done recently. So we're looking at local sources of funding. We're also looking at state sources of funding. So we have been advocating for maintaining the state set aside in the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, which is the revenue that comes from the Cap and Trade program for wildfire resilience. So that is currently set at $200 million a year, and we are proposing that that at least be maintained and gradually be increased over time. And then we've also been looking at other kind of statewide funding sources like the California Wildfire Fund, and using it to backstop local activities, like work it as a loan guarantee program in order to do work at the local level. And then we have also done some polling asking California residents, what would they be willing to pay in order to scale up wildfire resilience? And like the surprising result we got was that more than 60%, actually 65% of Californians said that they think we should be spending somewhere between 1% and 2% of our state budget on this issue. So we are looking at what are the funding sources that could be embedded in the state budget in order to essentially begin to scale up wildfire resilience funding. Next slide, please. Next one. So our policy priorities in 2026 are to appropriate additional Proposition 4 wildfire funds. Many of you know we passed a natural resource bond 2 years ago. We appropriated $500 million of that last year. The current proposal is to appropriate another $315 million of it. We are proposing that being up to $500 million this year as well. Protect that $200 million in cap and invest funding to make sure it continues to go to wildfire resilience. Right now, the governor's budget proposed number is $144 million, not $200 million. So we are looking at how do we protect that cap and invest money for this purpose. And then as the budget allows, scale up greenhouse gas reduction funding and begin to explore these other wildfire funding measures. Our request is actually that you merely join and track the coalition. There's no cost associated with coalition membership. It's largely supported by a private fundraising effort. I went out and raised a lot of the money myself. So membership dues do not obligate the city to contribute funding or staff resources, although I do have to tell you the coalition meetings have probably the best information on wildfire funding that is being shared out there in the state of California. Like those meetings that we do like roughly every 6 weeks are incredibly valuable in identifying new funding sources. And participation allows the city to remain informed, aligned with regional partners, and supportive of these statewide efforts without actually committing you to any specific public policy ask. So everything that we are doing is intended to be bipartisan, statewide, and opt-in. So, so that is, that's kind of our objective. And happy to hand it back over to Ramiro for staff comments or questions.
Thank you so much, Steve. And that's going to go ahead and conclude our presentation, and we'll turn it back over to you, Honorable Mayor.
Thank you, and thank you for that detailed report. Before we move on to public comments, does any council members have any questions of staff?
I do have questions. Are we allowed to ask questions of Mr. Risch? And did I say your name right? Did I say Mr. Risch? Did I say
Risch.
Risch?
Yes.
Risch. Okay, so first, thank you for what you have been doing. I mean, this is phenomenal, and Lord knows with climate change and everything that we've been seeing, we absolutely need to have a strong and unified voice to bring more resources. There's nothing that I saw in your presentation that I disagreed with, and Councilmember Councilmember Sylvester, thank you for inviting him here and bringing this to our attention. I'll be honest with you, I walked into this room, and I may still be in this place, of wanting to get to know you a little better and asking if we could postpone a vote on this until we had a chance to get to know you a little better. So I'll ask some questions, but I think that is still going to be something that I would like, is to ask staff to go back and dig a little further, because everything in that PowerPoint presentation is fantastic. But before we sign on as a city and be the very first city, I think I would like to, I
Yes.
would like to get to know you. And some of the questions that you might be able to answer a little bit off the top of your head, but perhaps, and I did talk to City Manager Hamburger about this earlier. He did not balk at the idea of staff doing a little bit more investigation with you. One of my questions is, who are your funders?
So original seed funding came from the Moore Foundation, the Moore Foundation, the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation. We also have funding commitments from the League of California Community Foundations, so about 9 community foundations up and down the state of California. We have 3 private donors who are, basically donated to nonprofit organizations in order to support this effort.
3 private donors. No, you're not naming those private donors.
I'm not naming the private donors. I can't do that. Well, I just can't.
How much of the funding comes from the
$300,000 of a total $1.9 million budget.
300,000, you said?
Yes.
And the rest of the $1.9 million budget comes from the foundation?
Comes from community foundations, the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation, Wild Spaces, and the Jim and Becky Morgan Family Fund.
You are quite the fundraiser.
Yeah. So.
And I heard, and I think I misunderstood this, what I heard you asking is for us to join. So are you asking, I looked at your webpage and I saw all of the fantastic logos. Are you looking to then put our logo on as the City of Agoura Hills as a member? Are we?
Eventually, yes. I understand your desire to get to know us better. I think that's fine. So the California State Association of Counties is already a member. The League of California Cities is in the process of figuring out what committees this needs to go through to join.
Okay.
The Regional Council of Rural Counties is already a member. So it is our intent to go out and ask local jurisdictions all the way up and down the state of California to join.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and thank you so much for your grace in understanding, wanting a couple more dates before we actually sign on and have our names on there. I will also, one of the things that came up for me as you were talking, another possibility is to have you come to the new subcommittee that was established. Penny and I are now going to be sitting on it's not the exact jurisdiction of the subcommittee, but we're sitting on a subcommittee that is looking at our wildfire prevention plan, and it may be an opportunity for us to get to know you and dig a little deeper. You gave us the level 1, which everyone agrees with world peace. Everybody agrees wildfires are a problem. Maybe not everybody. I can't imagine anyone in California not agreeing that there are a need for more resources. And then you gave us some spaces where you're going to want more resources. And I would love to get to know the levels 2 and the level 3. And so maybe that would be an option too if others were open to it. I very much want to say yes. I very much want to be in this coalition.
I'm happy to participate in a committee meeting. Yeah.
Does that conclude? I'm seeing that Mayor Pro Tem Klein Lopez.
Thank you, and thank you. I had a couple of the same questions that you had, Councilmember Anderson. My question is, are you working with the state legislature and CAL FIRE and Cal OES and the insurance commissioner? What is your relationship with the actual legislative and governmental bodies?
So our coalition is in the process of doing a series of meetings with gubernatorial candidates. So we've done meetings with about half of everyone who's polling above 1%. We're also doing both in-district and Sacramento meetings with about 60 different legislators. And our organization and the other organization we're working with as a convening partner is the Nature Conservancy, has been doing ongoing meetings with legislators, including committee chairs and committee members, on advancing this concept. So that is an ongoing process. We are also very involved in the State Wildfire Resilience and Forest Management Task Force. So our organization, Sierra Business Council, co-chaired the Workforce Development Strategy Group in the task force process, and also served on the Wood Utilization Working Group in the process. And the Nature Conservancy served on the Nature-Based Solutions Group and the Wildfire Prescribed Fire Task Force portion. So I also might note that we have a lot of participation from tribal organizations in the coalition as well, including the Indigenous Stewardship Network and several California tribes that are beginning to scale up prescribed fire as a treatment type. And one of the reasons behind that is, of course, getting back to a natural fire regimen and not the fire regimen that we've had that has been high intensity, wind-driven events is actually the cheapest way to get back to natural landscape management in California. It's just a very difficult road to get back to that because of the amount of work that needs to be done. So.
And what about are you also interviewing insurance commissioners? And what about the insurance? Because the hard part about all of this is that even if a homeowner or a business or a property owner does all the right things to harden their property,
right,
there's still no guarantee that they're going to be insured, and that's part of the affordability crisis. So I highly recommend, if you're not.
So we have been talking to the insurance commissioner's office and have had several meetings with Ricardo Laura. We're also talking to individual insurance companies in California to talk about ways that they might begin to incorporate home hardening, defensible space, and local wildfire efforts into the calculation of insurance rates, which I think you guys know is a very difficult thing to do under the provisions of the state insurance law under Prop 104. So there's a lot of kind of work that needs to go into calculating that into insurance rates. There was a move this year to include new catastrophic wildfire modeling in the insurance rates in order to spread the costs across a broader base in California. And then we've also been working with the Institute for Building and Home Safety on their certification program in order to reduce insurance rates based on voluntary home hardening efforts. So.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Anstead?
I was looking through your coalition, and one of the questions that jumps out at me, because it looks like a lot of the community organizations and all that were from the Tahoe area. Are the cities of Truckee and South Tahoe or North Tahoe part of this coalition? Or?
Well, I am, you are the first jurisdiction that we're asking to join, I want you to know. However, we are lined up for Placer County, Nevada County, El Dorado County, the town of Truckee, Grass Valley, and Nevada City over the next 3 weeks. And then we also have meetings going on in counties in the North San Francisco Bay region who have been really active around this: Solano, Yolo, Sonoma, and Marin for the same purpose. So we are gradually getting around to all of the jurisdictions. I will note, I am proud of the point that as a Truckee resident, we voted for a partial charge in order to scale up wildfire defense in our community, and it's been unbelievably successful. So for every dollar that they've spent, they've leveraged at least $3 in state or federal funding.
Member Sylvester?
I would just like to comment that I wanted to bring this to us because this only just started in June. So it's a baby, and I would love to be one of the first cities that recognizes the need. I mean, we have to do more than we're doing to protect ourselves. And any money that the state gives us for home hardening and to, protect our city is going to bring down insurance rates. It's going to bring down other costs. Because if we can find a solution to the wildfire issue, we've won. So anybody that's focused just on this, I appreciate.
Thank you. Seeing or hearing no other questions, I do think that now, I do want to defer to the city clerk to see if there's any public comments on this item first.
Yes, we did receive written correspondence from Jay Crutcher, Agoura, and that was distributed to the city council, and Jay is also here to speak. If you'd like to step up.
Thank you, Jay, and as you know, your 3 minutes to speak will end when the red light appears on the podium. Please adjust the microphone and begin your comments.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor, City Council members, City staff, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I fully support this initiative to join the Wildfire Solutions Coalition and will support any effort to increase communication and collaboration at any level. Wildfire is a hideously complex issue, and whether we like it or not, it will happen again and again and again. California, and Los Angeles County in particular, is an ecosystem that was made to burn. The challenge is for us to figure out how to manage those risks responsibly, effectively, equitably, and how to keep those open space fires out of our neighborhood streets. This one really takes a village, both at the local level and from various government agencies in our county and in Sacramento. Our recent mayor, beloved mayor, now council member Sylvester, graciously invited me to sit in on a weekly discussion group that has its own particular perspective. And while I disagree with maybe half of what is said, I deeply, deeply appreciate the opportunity to hear those perspectives and to try to understand them better. And I appreciate how that group has allowed me to contribute what I can by suggesting speakers or asking the occasional carefully worded question. We get smarter by learning from each other. Agoura deserves a voice, deserves a seat at the table, and if the Wildfire Solutions Coalition is one opportunity to assert that right to representation, we should take it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Are there any other public comments?
No further speakers.
Okay, great. So moving on to deliberation, I will start. From what I'm hearing from the council, this is something we're interested in, but we would want to move to maybe the next meeting or as soon as possible. Is that something that staff is able to do and this council agrees with, to answer a few questions and then bring this item back?
Absolutely. I would, if I can make one suggestion, is
Please.
maybe instead of coming up with a date certain right now, we can go back and sort of talk. I think I have a general idea given what I'm hearing, but rather than say we're automatically going to bring it back to the next council meeting in January, let us go ahead and as a staff get comfortable with coming to some of these answers and then figure out when the appropriate time to come back to the council would be. That would be my only.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. So if this council is okay with this, we will bring this item back at an appropriate time. And I do just want to take a moment to thank Steve for coming and the work you do, and it's more important than ever. So moving on to council and staff comments now. Are there any comments from staff? Wow, seeing or hearing none. Are there any comments from the city council? Wow.
Oh,
yes,
I have
please.
one comment. As the former mayor, I'd like to compliment our current mayor on a wonderful meeting.
Thank you. It's not over yet. There's still some time, but thank you. I appreciate that. I do want to take this time to thank staff for their work during the recent rains. There was a lot of activity in the city, and it was during the holidays, and it was really dynamic, and it was really intense, and I know you guys were on it during your time with your family, and so I sincerely appreciate all of that, and that we didn't have nothing catastrophic, but the fact that we were on it really meant a lot to me, the council, and to the residents, so thank you. Seeing any other comments? Seeing or hearing none? The next regular city council meeting is scheduled for 6 p.m. on January 28th, 2026 in the council chambers of the Civic Center located at 30001 Ladyface Court in Agoura Hills, California. This meeting is now adjourned.